The early 1990s were a golden age for both professional wrestling and video games. In North America, the WWF and WCW were starting to reach millions of fans, filling arenas with heroes and villains who seemed larger than life. Japan's pro wrestling scene was just as hot too, with stars like the legendary Antonio Inoki and Jushin Thunder Liger cementing wrestling as a respected athletic spectacle. At the same time, Capcom was becoming a dominant force in the arcade. The company had just unleashed Street Fighter II in 1991, changing competitive gaming forever. In the aftermath of that success, Capcom then decided to start exploring new genres that could benefit from their mastery of arcade design. So, it was only natural that professional wrestling, a sport built on spectacle, competition, and colorful personalities, would capture Capcom's attention. Wrestling games already existed in the arcade, but Capcom wanted to bring its signature polish and energy to the squared circle. And so in 1993, Capcom introduced a game in Japan called Muscle Bomber, known elsewhere as Saturday Night Slam Masters. A hybrid of pro wrestling theatrics and Capcom's arcade fighting expertise, this wasn't just another sports title. It was a bold attempt to merge two entertainment worlds that shared more in common than most realized. I'm Mike Straw, and this is Fightful Presents. The development of Saturday Night Slam Masters reflected Capcom's ambition to branch out after the explosion of Street Fighter II. By 1992, the company had proven it could dominate the fighting game genre. Wrestling, with its theatrical fights and global fanbase, offered the perfect opportunity for Capcom to try something different while still leaning on its strengths. To give the game that authentic wrestling feel, Capcom turned to a major outside collaborator, Tetsuya Hara, the legendary manga artist best known for creating Fist of the North Star. Hara designed the cast of wrestlers for Slam Masters, giving each character the same exaggerated musculature, intensity, and dramatic flair that had defined his manga work. His involvement instantly gave the game a unique visual identity, somewhere between the over-the-top world of pro wrestling and the bold style of shonen manga. The game was directed internally at Capcom, but the development team leaned heavily on Hara's designs. Promotional flyers and arcade artwork proudly featured his illustrations, helping to market Slam Masters not just as a video game, but as kind of a wrestling manga come to life. The soundtrack was handled by Capcom's in-house sound team, bringing the same high-energy arcade audio that players expected from the company. Music and crowd effects also helped capture the spectacle of a live wrestling event, an atmosphere that few wrestling games at the time could truly replicate. And by mid-1993, Capcom was ready to unleash its wrestling experiment to arcades worldwide. Saturday Night Slam Masters occupies a unique place in Capcom's arcade library because it blends elements of fighting games with the structure of professional wrestling. Unlike most wrestling games of the era, which focused on simulation and licensed rosters, Slam Masters brought Capcom's arcade sensibilities into the ring. The game features a 3-button control scheme allowing you to attack, jump, and grapple. But the simplicity belies the depth beneath the surface. Strikes can be chained into combos, while grapples allow for throws and slams that require timing and positioning, and players can then win a match in one of 3 ways: pinfall, submission, or countout. Reflecting traditional wrestling rules more closely than most contemporary arcade titles. The arcade version of the game also introduced team battles and tag mechanics into the fighting genre. In these modes, up to 4 players could compete simultaneously, coordinating attacks and performing double-team moves. These features in the game encourage social play in arcades, letting friends experiment with strategy and showmanship. Another standout feature players saw was the presentation of the matches. The ring, crowd, and sound effects were carefully designed to evoke the atmosphere of televised wrestling. Each wrestler had a unique entrance animation and victory pose, enhancing their personality and making every match feel like part of a larger story. The game's mechanics also rewarded timing and spectacle. A well-executed finisher triggers dramatic animations and crowd reactions, reinforcing the theatricality of pro wrestling while keeping players engaged with responsive gameplay. Capcom's development team translated Hara's great illustrations into detailed sprites, giving each character dozens of frames for moves, entrances, and reactions. Combined with the energetic soundtrack, these animations created a lively and memorable arcade experience for everyone who picked up the game. But while the hybrid gameplay was innovative, it also had its limitations. Some players did find the mix of fighting game precision and wrestling rules challenging to master, yet this combination of accessibility and depth helped Slam Masters stand out among other arcade titles of the early 1990s. Now, one of the defining moments of Saturday Night Slam Masters was its roster. Each wrestler on the game is instantly recognizable, not just by appearance, but by overall personality, fighting style, and signature moves. Tetsuya Hara's art gave each character a distinct silhouette and visual flair that helped players identify them immediately. Some of the characters in the game's roster include Mike Hager, who's known by Capcom fans from Final Fight, as Hager brings raw power and classic wrestling moves like a pile driver into the ring. Biff Slamkovich, one of the most known names in all of wrestling video games, is a brute force grappler representing an American style of wrestling, emphasizing strength over speed. Gunlock is a military-inspired wrestler with a powerful, disciplined style, and fans have often speculated ties to other Capcom characters, though no official canon link exists between the games. El Stingray is a masked luchador who represents aerial lucha libre techniques, bringing acrobatics to the gameplay and in general a new style. The Great Oni is a theatrical Japanese-style wrestler with a masked design that draws on traditional wrestling pageantry. Then you have Titanic Tim, Alexander the Greater, King Rastaman, and Jumbo Flapjack, each adding their own different archetype from showman to powerhouse to exotic flair, creating a diverse and colorful lineup, albeit a bit small. Overall, there were 10 characters to choose from in the game, though only 8 were available in single-player matches. 2 characters, Jumbo and Scorpion, are non-playable boss characters in single match and selectable only within the Tag Team Battle Royal mode. With this roster in tow, Capcom created the fictional federation, the Capcom Wrestling Association. This allowed the developers to mix archetypes from around the world without licensing real wrestlers or promotions. The result ended up being a lineup that feels global yet unified, making each match unpredictable and exciting based on the matchups. And the characters weren't only visually distinct, but mechanically diverse as well. Some were fast and agile, while others were slow and powerful. Each wrestler's moveset required different strategies for timing, positioning, and finishing sequences. The variety encouraged experimentation and replay with players, a hallmark of any successful arcade design. The promotional materials, arcade attract screens, and manuals emphasized these personalities, and Hara's art provided striking visuals, while the sprites in the game brought motion to life these in-game personas. Together, there's no doubt they created a roster that still resonates with fans today. After all, we're making this video right now. And it helps cement Slam Masters as a game where character identity mattered just as much as skill. Following the success of the original arcade release, Capcom decided it was time to experiment with expanding the Slam Masters concept. By late 1993, they released Muscle Bomber Duo Ultimate Team Battle, an update to the original arcade version of the game. This revision emphasized tag team mechanics, letting 2 players coordinate attacks and perform new dual-side attacks. Muscle Bomber Duo also refined balance for the multiplayer brawls while maintaining that chaotic, over-the-top spectacle that defined the first game. It added minor tweaks to character movesets, stage designs, and presentation, making the multiplayer experience more engaging for arcade crowds. In 1994, Capcom then released Ring of Destruction Slam Masters 2, a full sequel that pivoted more towards a traditional one-on-one fighting game format. While it retained the wrestling theme, Ring of Destruction focused on competitive balance and strategic 1v1 gameplay. Super moves were expanded, timing windows for grapples were tightened, and rounds were structured to be similar to other Capcom fighting games, catering to players who preferred precision and skill over chaotic multiplayer mayhem. Both sequels would reuse Hara's original designs for continuity, while the internal Capcom teams handled the sprite animation, stages, and audio enhancements. While neither sequel achieved the same cultural visibility as Street Fighter II or the original Slam Masters, they reinforced Capcom's reputation for quality arcade design and contributed to the enduring appeal of the Slam Master characters. Many of these characters would then make later appearances in crossovers, notably Mike Hager in the Marvel vs. Capcom series, keeping that legacy alive. Though the Slam Master series never became a long-running franchise, its characters and concepts continued to influence Capcom projects in the years that followed. Mike Hager, originally from Final Fight and a playable character in Slam Masters, went on to appear in the Marvel vs. Capcom series. His wrestling moves, visual style, and personality in these later games clearly draw from his Slam Masters incarnation, preserving the over-the-top grappling and heroic aesthetic. Beyond Hager, other Slam Masters characters occasionally appear in Capcom cross-references or fan service materials, including official art books, Capcom compilations, and promotional content for arcade re-releases. While these appearances rarely ever include active gameplay roles, they demonstrate that Capcom valued the series' visual style and character designs. In the realm of modern re-releases, Saturday Night Slam Masters has been included in collections like the Capcom Arcade Second Stadium, where the game was emulated for contemporary consoles and platforms. These re-releases highlight the arcade experience and ensure that the series remains accessible to new audiences, preserving the animation, sound, and mechanics of the original hardware. When it launched back in '93, reception of the overall game was generally positive. Contemporary arcade reviews praised the visual style, character design, and energetic soundtrack that we've talked about a lot. Critics noted the unique mix of fighting game precision and the wrestling theatrics, calling it a standout experiment. Some reviews did mention the balance issues with multiplayer brawls, but many operators and players appreciated the social and visual appeal of the cabinet. Because of the success of the original version, home console ports eventually arrived for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis in 1994. Each version adapted the arcade mechanics for the respective hardware, though there were some changes for each. The SNES version ultimately preserved more of the original arcade experience, including much of the team battle mechanics, while the Genesis version had to make adjustments to matches, music, and stage presentation due to hardware limitations. One thing the Genesis version did have as a replacement for the Team Battle Royal mode was an exploding barbed wire deathmatch when playing in two-player mode. The Genesis version of the game also allowed players to select Jumbo Flapjack and Scorpion in single matches due to the Team Battle Royal mode being eliminated. Fans today still generally regard the arcade version of Slam Masters as the definitive experience, with the console port serving as an accessible adaptation for home audiences. But even decades later, Slam Masters remains celebrated for its visual identity, inventive gameplay, and hybrid approach. The game represents Capcom's willingness to experiment, blending genres, leveraging high-profile manga artists, and pushing arcade presentation beyond simple competitive mechanics. Its characters and visual style have endured the test of time, showing up later in crossovers and promotional materials. Characters like Mike Hager continue to make appearances in various games, preserving his style and persona from a game all those years ago. Fans continue to celebrate the aesthetic, sprite animation, and soundtrack, sharing everything from speedruns and fan art to strategies online. Saturday Night Slam Masters also serves as a case study in arcade design. The balance of spectacle, multiplayer chaos, and strategic combat shows the depth of planning and creativity in Capcom's early 90s teams. In the end, Slam Masters is remembered not just as a game, but an experience. A brief, bright flash of arcade energy, artistry, and wrestling drama, preserved in fans' memories, re-releases, and Capcom's ongoing celebration of its history. Even 30 years later, the game stands as a testament to what happens when a studio pushes the boundaries of entertainment and doesn't rely on the same formula time in and time out. They create something that's remembered, cherished, and even still played today. Thanks for watching.